Whatever. The fuck? Uptown Saturday Night is a feature film released June 15th, 1974 by First Artists and distributed by Warner Brothers. It was the third film directed by Sidney Poitier and stars Poitier and Bill Cosby. The first of three films starring the duo, the title is the most popular. However, it is often mixed up with their second film together, Let's Do It Again, which I will cover in a later video. Uptown Saturday Night is a star-studded event featuring characters played by actors such as Harry Belafonte, Richard Pryor, Flip Wilson, and that's just to name a few. Sidney Poitier was the definitive actor of the era, coming to prominence in such films as The Defiant Ones, Lilies in the Field, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. His biggest role was as Virgil Tibbs in The Heat of the Night, which led to two sequels, playing the same character in 1970's They Call Me Mr. Tibbs and 1971's The Organization. In 1972, Mr. Poitier made his directorial debut with Buck and the Preacher, while also starring in the film with Harry Belafonte. This was followed by A Warm December in 1973. By 1974, Poitier, Barbra Streisand, and Paul Newman formed the First Artists production company to put out their own films, and Uptown Saturday Night is the first film done by Sidney Poitier for the company. The amount of black star power in this film can be attributed to Poitier's influence in Hollywood at the time. The story is set in Chicago and follows our two heroes as they're introduced to and then forced to navigate the colorful landscape of the Chicago underworld. Steve, played by Sidney Poitier, is a married steelworker who still loves his wife, works hard for his family, and attempts to stay on the straight and narrow. Steve's best friend, Wardell, is played by Bill Cosby. Wardell is a more hip, slightly younger, and he's more willing to take chances for the sake of the experience. Now, I can relate to this exact situation, because in my early adult years, I was a steel worker, engaged, and had friends who would always get me to go out. The only difference is, I was actually the wild one out the bunch.
I might just walk the streets for 2 weeks, bringing sunshine and brightness to lonely dudes like you.
That's not funny. Come on, I'll buy you a drink.
But back to the movie. After going back and forth a bit, Wardell convinces Steve to hit an exclusive after-hours spot since he's on vacation from the mill.
All this man about Zenobians, please.
What's there to tell? Once you go in, you don't never want to come out. It's the hippest place in the world. You gotta check it out, Steve.
Let's go tonight.
The Good Times literary role at the after hours called Zenobians. It is here that we are first introduced to Leggy Peggy, played by Paula Kelly. Now, Peggy has a high hand at the craps table, and Wardell gets in on the action right before the plot thickens.
And what? My sister. And while you at it, jump on that. And $5 in church. Jump on it. You've been jumped on. Now jump on some more then.
Good enough. And put this
Your hands move every time mine moves. Go ahead, dog.
All the time.
Here we go.
Woo! Again.
7 away.
There you go. There you go.
How long y'all been open down here? I've been working for a living.
Yeah, I know, but ain't nothing like
All
this.
right, jump on it. Jump on it. You my man. I got your name in.
Bill Cosby is probably best known for his comedy in the early days, being the first black star of a weekly dramatic series on network television on I Spy, and for The Cosby Show in the 80s and 90s. However, in the 70s, Bill Cosby was known for teaming up with Sidney Poitier for 3 films: Uptown Saturday Night, Let's Do It Again, and A Piece of the Action. Bill and Sidney were both looking for a way to offset the portrayal of the black experience shown in blaxploitation films of the era, using the same type of characters and situations, but putting a comedic spin on it, gave filmgoers an alternative to the more gritty and ironically more ridiculous images in other films such as Superfly, Shaft, and Foxy Brown. Now, I personally don't have a problem with those portrayals. However, they were the source of much controversy at the time due to the amount of violence, crime, and other morally questionable elements of those films. Spoiler alert, with Leggy Peggy lighting the craps table on fire, the room behind the door is full of excitement. The dice game gets robbed. In fact, the whole damn place gets robbed. Now, not only do they rob the party, they make everybody strip and take all their wallets, purses, jewelry, off anything of value. To end the scene, the head robber says, "Never have so few owe so much to so many. Good night." It exits the scene.
Stay where you are for 10 minutes. Anybody tries to move before that gets shot. I want to thank you, brothers and sisters, for a very lovely evening. Never have so few owed so much to so many. Good night.
Now, I'm of the opinion that if this line is never used, there's never a resolution to this plot. And also, a thief having a catchphrase is something used in movies all the time, but it makes absolutely no sense for a real-life thief to identify themselves with something so trivial. So for all you inspired criminals out there, leave the catchphrases alone and stick to the task at hand. Now, when it comes to storytelling, the first act introduces us to the main characters and the conflict. But in this case, our main characters don't have a conflict yet. Yes, they were robbed, but honestly, that's not really their concern because they went to Zenobia knowing they might spend all their money anyway, so it wasn't the worst possible loss. But then they sprinkled some more flour in the grave. The plot thickens. Let me just take a second to talk about Flip Wilson's portrayal of the preacher in this movie. Now, if you don't know who Flip Wilson is, you need to stop this video and look him up right now. I'll wait. You done laughing yet? Alright, let's continue. The boys got robbed, so they had nothing to put in the offering plate, but the preacher does announce the upcoming picnic and how there will be no joy juice at the church picnic. Later that day, Steve sees the lottery numbers and realizes he has a winning ticket.
The lottery ticket I found in your suit when I took it to the cleaners.
Sarah, is that a 9?
Uh-huh.
Is that a 1?
Yeah.
And is that a 4? And is that another 1? And another 9?
Uh-huh.
9, 1, 4, 1, 9? That's I won. That's my ticket. My ticket.
How much for? Oh, my goodness.
$50,000.
Money, honey. Money, honey. Ow! Money, honey. Money, honey.
What's the problem? Guess where the ticket is? So now, priority one for Stephen Wardell is to find that ticket. Now, one thing I need to say about this is, if your homeboy is going to help you find your lottery ticket, you better expect to be breaking them off when you find it. I don't know, maybe things were different in the 70s, but probably not. So anyway, the search for the thieves and the lottery ticket begins, and it's a little rocky at the start, because just talking to every other everyday citizens such as themselves didn't really come up with anything, because nobody knows anything. Think about it. They were robbed by thieves in masks in an underground club that most people don't even know about. So why would they ask people walking up and down the street?
Oh, man, freeze.
No, see, y'all got the wrong. No, you're wrong. See, I haven't done anything now. I want to go.
So after Wardell gets arrested and Steve gets flirted with, they change their tactics and decide to hire an investigator. When I tell you that Richard Pryor steals the scene as Sharp out Washington, first of all, his jittery demeanor is anxiety-inducing, and the way the scene ends is even more hilarious. Now, I don't even need to go into who Richard Pryor is, or why he's famous, or how big of a movie star he was in the 80s, because everybody knows that. This is Richard fucking Pryor.
What do you want? We're looking for Sharp Eye Washington.
Who looking for him?
Steve Jackson, and this is my friend Wardell Franklin.
We want him for a job.
What kind of job?
Well, some property ours was stolen. We want him to get it back for us.
Cost you $500.
500? Oh, we ain't got that kind of money.
$400?
What I will say, I used to think Richard Pryor had beef with Bill Cosby, but I found out later that couldn't be further from the truth. That thought was based strictly on the Eddie Murphy impression of them both in his comedy show Raw. I later found out Richard Pryor always looked up to Bill Cosby, and there was actually an anthology film they starred in together called California Suite, where they both play doctors playing tennis against each other. Now that's definitely worth checking out.
Long time, Washington.
I was framed.
You said that in Des Moines, Iowa, where you were Cleophas Washington, a preacher. You escaped from custody. You said that in Jersey City, where you were Henry Hawthorne Washington, a bogus lawyer. You jumped bail. Your clients are still waiting for you to handle their cases.
Looky, that's my cousin, Clarence Washington. That's not me. That's not me.
Damn, man, we trusted you. I mean, why us?
Why not you, brother?
Take him away.
Since beating the street and hiring a professional did not bear any fruit, these guys decide to visit their local politician, Chelsea Lincoln, played by Roscoe Lee Brown. Roscoe Lee Brown is a legend in his own right. You don't remember Mr. Brown ever playing any jive-talking, hand-slapping characters, because he never did do that. He was a man who took acting seriously and did not bother himself with roles that he did not consider challenging or portray images he did not agree with. Whenever you see Roscoe Lee Brown, he was distinguished and intelligent, even in comedic lights such as his role in Uptown Saturday Night. After dining at the Shiki, Congressman Lincoln invites Stephen Wardell into his office and assures him he will assist him in any way he can until they mention Zenobia. At this point, you can tell he is flustered, and his feelings is expanded further by the arrival of his wife, Leggy Peggy. After a short reunion with Wardell and reminiscing about a crap game and the robbery, Peggy directs them to try and track down Geechee Dan and Lil Seymour. The guys go find Lil Seymour first, and at first it seems like they may be out of luck, but Steve tries to get tough and calls out Lil Seymour by shoving a little dirt on his name, and that brings him out.
I know you're in here, Seymour, so come on out. I hear you so ugly till the sun refuses to shine every time you come out. You so ugly till it's against the law in 20 states to marry you.
Yeah, that's it, Steve. You cooking. You just keep on talking. He's in here somewhere. And just remember, I got your back. And Dig, say something about his mama.
Got you.
Let me get him.
I hear your breath so bad till you put the...
Nothing says comedy like slapstick, and this scene is full of it. As Lil Seymour and his associate, Big Percy, show Stephen Wardell what time it is. This scene is action-packed and comedic at the same time, and the acrobatics of Harold Nicholas are put to good use. If Harold Nicholas looks familiar, it's because he is one of the famous Nicholas brothers known for the tap dancing exploits during the Harlem Jazz Renaissance. If not, you know him as Sarge, choreographer from Robert Townsend's The Five Heartbeats.
And third, here's a little something for niggers who loud talk Little Seymour.
After getting run out of Little Seymour's, they decide to approach Geechee Dan. The situation is a lot different because Geechee Dan is in this spot with his goons making plans. Geechee Dan is played by the late great Harry Belafonte. If you don't know who Harry Belafonte is or what he means to the entertainment industry, you better find out. Singer, actor, activist, and not necessarily in that order. Harry Belafonte is responsible for the song We Are the World being made by his influence alone. Now, Geechee Dan rolls with a car full of gangsters, gets out of the spot, and everybody files in behind him. Stephen Wardell follow him, and Steve bravely approaches one of Geechee's henchmen and asks for a meeting. Geechee instructs the bodyguard to bring him over to sit down. Geechee partakes in an interesting ritual of swallowing a raw egg, taking some pills, and washing it down with a shot of whiskey before asking Steve what he wants. Steve tries to explain, but Dan doesn't want to hear it and instructs him to leave. Before they can get Steve to the door, 3 gunmen with machine guns start shooting the whole joint up, making Geechee, his men, and Steve have to jump for cover. Now once the shooting stops and the gunmen leave, Steve, Geechee, and all the henchmen hightail it out of there. Now Steve jumps back in Wardell's cab, Geechee back in his long caddy, and they all take off, but Geechee and his guys catch up to Steve and take him somewhere to question him about what just happened. Geechee questions them and bags them into confessing to being fingermen for Silky Slim, his rival. Geechee believes Steve and Wardell were there to point him out to Silky's men so that Silky can take over his turf. Steve goes along with that explanation due to wanting to be let go, but of course Geechee reneges on his offer and orders his men to make them disappear. Before they can get Steve and Wardell to the car, it explodes, and everybody rushes back into the hideout. This leads to a standoff with Slim asks Geechee to team up with him, and in the meantime, Wardell spins a yarn about how they need to infiltrate Slim's organization for some loot they caught wind of as Zenobius.
Never will so few owe so much to so many.
That's the one. He's the one we're after.
Shut up over there.
But he's the one who robbed Madame Zenobius.
So what?
But he stole something that night. Something you don't know about. Something that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah. I told you all to shut up over there. Don't be bugging me with this penny ante crap at a time like this.
You got 1 minute, Geechee.
But this ain't no penny ante, Mr. Geechee Dan. No, sir. It's worth a fortune. Mr. Geechee Dan, it's worth a fortune.
That's right.
We'll share it with you, Mr. Geechee Dan. You know how much it's worth? It's
300,000.
What you say?
300,000 in diamonds.
Geechee goes for the hook and agrees to play nice with Silky Slim. Silky's men enter first, wearing dazzling threads and hats. The musical is overly dramatic as Silky enters the room and we see his face for the first time. Silky Slim, played by Calvin Lockhart, comes across as the baddest gangster there is, and it's not even close. So they make a deal that Geechee will split the $300K with Silky if he brings him the loot they captured at the party. Geechee thinks he has the advantage on Silky, so he also tells Silky to bring him a new car. Everybody meets up at the church for the service before the picnic. Silky brings the loot, and Geechee brings his sunny disposition. Geechee goes through the loot to find the letter in question. Once he finds it, he gives it to his guys, and they go to recover the goods. Meanwhile, Steve still needs to get to his wallet, and once the letter is found, Geechee loses all interest in being his friend, helping him to recover it. Silky Slim and Geechee Dan decide they'll go to the picnic to serve as an alibi in case something goes left. We get to the picnic, and the food, music, and everything else is straight out of a family reunion photo album. Somebody absolutely brought joy juice to the party and pours it into the punch bowl. While Silky, Geechee, and their crews mix and mingle, Steve and Wardell trying to get to the bag. They try to get in the car where the loot is through the trunk, but that doesn't work out, so they try going through the back seat. At the same time, Geechee and Silky are doing everything from dancing to playing baseball to racing a potato sack race. They're really having a great time. The loot in the trunk is unattainable. Silky gets a call giving them bad news. Turns out the guys got caught and arrested and somebody's snitching. They decide it's time to go, and Steve still can't get to that loot bag. Only they can't leave because now the cops are on the scene and they're looking for Geechee and Silk at the picnic. The snitch refuses to point him out because everybody is motioning how they're going to kill him if he does.
All you gotta do is point him out. We'll do the rest.
So they finally make a run for it, and Steve is close behind. He wants that bag. They leave the police on the chase, with Wardell in his taxi in the middle. Steve is on top of the getaway station wagon, armed with a hammer. He grabs onto the luggage rack and goes for a ride. They try everything to shake Steve off the station wagon, but he refuses to let go. He knocks out both henchmen with the hammer and then starts working on the window. Silky finally gets out and they tussle over the bag until Silky throws it over the bridge into the river. Steve then decides to jump in after it, and his young blood, Wardell, jump in right after. The last scene, Steve's in the hospital with his head bandaged up, but the ticket is safe at home, and him and Sid start planning their new life together. The end.